most welcome. You are most welcome to ask questions. There are plenty of opportunities that you can ask questions. We have a whole team here. And so by way of introduction, please allow me a moment just to introduce you to the UNISA team behind Code Robot. My name is Dr. Patricia Hoos, and I'm part of the team that's put together this webinar for you and also the content on the MOOC portal. Also here is Dr. Denzel Chetty, and he will take over just now and take you on a tour of the units of training. Also in the session we have Moti Singh, and he's our ICT specialist, and Professor Singh, also on content development. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Prof. Singh. So now you know what Prof. Singh looks like. He's going to show us just now, and he's going to contribute as well. Thanks, Prof. Singh. There we go. On the team, we have Prof. Davids, who is kind of our research expert at the moment. And so exciting things will come out of that. And then last but not least, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Safura Miran from the College of Education, and she's going to welcome you. Safura, all over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patricia. That was a very good opening speech. Welcome everyone to our second webinar. We had a very good first webinar, and we're hoping to have an even better one this time. I hope you all are excited and looking forward to going through Unit 1 with Dr. Chetty. I welcome you to this webinar. You are free to ask questions as we go on. We'll have Professor Davids on the chat who will answer your questions. And later on, we'll have Dr. Hoos who will also answer your questions and encourage you to pick your hands up and ask away. You know, we want interaction. We want you to feel free to speak to us at any time. Please welcome and enjoy the session. Thank you. Over to you, Prof. Singh.
So, colleagues, good evening to you all. So, Zafura has adequately welcomed you all, and I don't want to prolong this introduction. I'm going to hand over directly to Dr. Chetty, and you all are going to get into the most exciting part of this webinar, and that's the first unit. This is going to send the foundation for you to proceed through the entire training and develop a strong, deep understanding of the whole concepts around coding and robotics. So with that being said, we look forward to your interactions with us. We look forward to your comments. We look forward to your thought-provoking ideas. I hand over to Dr. Chetty. Dr. Chetty.
Thanks, Prof. A very good evening, colleagues, and thank you once again for joining us today, especially in the evening. Also want to take this opportunity to greet all my colleagues from UNISA that are also sharing the platform with us. So at this time, let me start by sharing my screen. So I see many of you are actually online on the MOOC site as well. We've got about 35 that are already on the MOOC site live with me. So thanks, colleagues, for joining. So colleagues, once again, this is the DBE001, the first of two MOOCs that forms the foundation for coding and robotics. The first MOOC that we will work on is DBE001, Foundational Digital Literacy Skills for Educators. And if you missed our session last week on where we did the orientation to the site, please don't feel that you've missed out too much. On the MOOC site, you will find webinar link and recording. You simply click on webinar link and recording. It will take you to the site where you will have the link to every session that we will have. So all our webinar sessions on Monday will use the same link. So you don't need to have different links. You simply come here and click on this link and you'll be able to join our webinars on Monday. And then we will also post up the recordings. We understand that some of you might have challenges with attending, so you can also view the recording. But however, please note that this is not a substitute for missing out the sessions. This is just to also allow you to recap some of the areas. We do encourage you to attend the sessions so that you can engage us, but also engage fellow participants as well. And then please watch the orientation video. It also provides you with a good ground on how to navigate the website and what you can expect. But for today's session, it's actually quite exciting because today's session, we're going to look at what exactly is digital literacy. And you know that we spoke last week about the different units, the different themes that we will explore as part of this particular study unit. And one of the things that you will note is that we don't assume knowledge to be in place. So we build knowledge in a sense that we create an equal space for all participants, irrespective of whatever level you are in terms of your knowledge on digital literacy and technology integration in education. The idea here is that we work as a community of learners, a community of participants, and we engage the space together right from the bottom up. So we're building our knowledge and competencies together, and that is why we don't assume knowledge in place. We actually work together through it. Last week we did on Study Unit 0, the orientation, what it means to be an online learner, and more specifically what it means to be part of this particular course, the expectations from us as the facilitators at UNISA, and also what you can expect from us in terms of learning outcomes, as well as the assessment structure, etc., that will work. Now, in this week's Study Unit 1, we will look at what is digital literacy. The idea is that on average, this should take you about 2 hours to complete. So we give you the course structure, the course times, and it should give you roughly about 2 hours. That's the timing that we're looking at as part of the development course. So you will note from last week's session, Unit 0, we're now in Study Unit 1. So this map gives you an overview of where you are. So let's look at the outcomes. So the outcomes here is basically we want to demonstrate a foundational understanding of the term digital literacy. What does digital literacy mean for us? And in order to unpack this, we try to also contextualize it to the South African context, the African context, the education context. So it's not just broadly speaking digital literacy. It is very specific. What does this mean for us in our context? And we try to unpack this a bit so that when we start unpacking some of the core skills, we understand what it means for us in terms of our South African context and African context as well. The key questions, there are 4 key questions that forms the basis of this unit. And by the end of this, you should be able to explain the term digital literacy and its importance for the current era, identify the foundational skills in digital literacy. Why do we need a core set of digital literacy skills in teaching environment? And why digital literacy important for coding and robotics? Can you not just jump into coding and robotics? Do we really need a foundation to be built in digital literacy for coding and robotics? And we try to unpack a little bit about this in the space of this short study unit. So introduction, firstly, as part of the introduction, the idea here is for us to briefly look at how society, how our world has transformed through technology. And while we know that the general trends are social media platforms, and we've seen this like just recently when Facebook and WhatsApp went down, everybody was up in arms. It went down. What are the alternatives that we can use? And it was just for a space of a few hours. It went down, but literally our communication mechanism stopped, right? For many of us. In addition to the social media platforms, television has evolved. Now we're not seeing just straightforward televisions with plug-in satellites. We're now literally seeing smart TVs made with streaming compatibility, such as Netflix and Apple TV, etc. These are parts of our daily lives. It's now become the norm. But it doesn't just stop there. We've also seen our homes transition. We've seen smart home automation systems, from security to typical things like refrigerators, stoves, appliances in the house. All this has now seen a much more closer integration of technology into our daily lives. Our cars has been much more advanced as well. If we look at some of the cars that are out now, just by downloading one of the apps of that specific dealer, specific provider, maker, you can literally lock your car, switch on the lights, switch on the engines, locate your car, all through a simple app on your phone. So the idea of how our lives has transformed brings about a re-questioning of the impact the 4th Industrial Revolution has had on our daily lives. We know for a fact that COVID-19 has also brought this to a much more faster pace in terms of how we approach technology integration. And one of the things that it has actually helped us to do is, while we often complain about the transition in South Africa, we were actually forced to make that transition. So this is actually something good for us that came out of COVID-19. It actually leapfrogged us, jumped us right into the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. But what does this mean in terms of skills, competencies? And I asked this question the last time to some of the leading colleagues as well. What exactly does digital literacy mean? What does the fourth industrial revolution mean for a normal citizen in the South African context? Why should they be digitally literate? And what does it mean for us specifically in an African context when we're struggling with other elements? But how does the fourth industrial revolution shape us in our African context? And more specifically, what does this mean for you as an educator in an environment that you now see completely being transitioned overnight and embracing technology? The first activity that you will find in the study units, we released the study unit about an hour ago, but some people actually completed this previously when I had the study unit open, so you will see some of the comments. But the first video actually takes it down into what is the fourth industrial revolution, and it breaks up right down into the first concept of how the concept actually came about, what was the intention behind it in the World Economic Forum, what it actually meant in terms of conceptualizing the different trends that will emerge. And part of this is, it's a very short video, colleagues, so it's about 4 minutes, 17 seconds. And the idea is for you to look at this video, understand what the fourth industrial revolution means, broadly speaking, and then simply in the comments tab below, explain what you understand by the term fourth industrial revolution. So you'll see a comments tab below, and all you simply do is click on add comment, add your comment in below, and then click save, and it will save your comment. Now let's look at some of the comments. And part of this approach is also for you to engage some of the colleagues' explanations of this. And there were some fascinating comments as I started to engage this. And you can see for the very first comment by Professor Davids as well when he tested the site. This video clip provides a brief historical overview of the development of technology since the first industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution. And one of the things that many people don't know is what were the other three revolutions. And this video actually places that in context. But also characterized by faster and smarter technology and innovation, it introduced the notion of artificial intelligence and the use of 5G technology that will revolutionize everyday living by connected devices to the Internet of Things. So this looks at more specifically the four revolutions and how we've come to the fourth industrial revolution. And if we look at some of the other comments, it's a recent comment. I see that just come up 14 minutes ago, 1 minute ago. So let's look. The fourth industrial revolution is ingrained in our everyday lives and even our bodies. It is happening at a much faster pace and in a shorter time frame compared to other three industrial revolutions. That's actually very true. If we look at the pace of the fourth industrial revolution, it's much faster. It's making equality between individuals worse. And this is actually a good point on dividing on the digital divide amongst our citizens and the issue of equitable access and also skills. So colleagues, as you engage this, it's also very important that you engage and see what your participants are, how they've interpreted these videos. This is what we call part of engaging with each other, engaging with the, and to respond. So for example, if you want to simply respond to some of these, you can simply click on the reply comment, and you then allowed to reply to this specific comment as part of it as well. So it allows for the interactions as part of this, and please use that to engage with the fellow peers. Now, once we understand the context, the fourth industrial revolution that we are now embracing, and we're embracing it at a very, very fast pace, as was noted, let's look on now what does unpacking the term digital literacy, right? So what does digital literacy mean for us? Now, as you reflect on the fourth industrial revolution, digital literacy also comes to the fore as a key understanding for us to unpack, right? And here we drew on Western Sydney University what they describe digital literacy as having the skills you need to live. And I see this, many of you have already captured this. Having the skills you need to live, learn, and work in a society where communication and access to information are increasingly through digital technologies like internet platforms, social media, and mobile devices, right? That's one definition by Western Sydney University. Then David Buckingham, he described digital literacy as a minimal set of skills that will enable the user to operate effectively, right, with software tools or in performing basic information retrieval tasks. So we see an additional level of retrieval tasks coming about. So if this is basically digital literacy. It's part of our life. It's part of our human beings, of what we are, the essence of how we function as human beings. What are some of the core skills, the competencies that we need to consider in this era? And to do this, we turn to the JISC education document. And I've always provided links. You find that I've provided links to the documents that you can reference, right? And here in this diagram, figure 0.01, you will find a digital capability framework. And they've highlighted 6 elements that forms part of the entire ecosystem of what we would consider being a digital citizen or digital being in this particular framework, right? Now let's look at some of these things. And these are important because, as you will find later, these form the foundation even for coding and robotics, right? The first one, ICT proficiency, which we call functional skills. And this can be defined as the use of ICT-based devices, applications, software, any ICT tools, etc. Right? Information, and this is productively when we attend to quality, right? Information, data, and media literacies, critical use. This is more to find, evaluate, manage, curate, organize, and share digital information. How do we collate, manage, access the use of digital data? And the third one is critically receive and respond to messages in a range of digital media, in a range of digital platforms, etc. Right? The third one, and this is quite important even for you as a teacher in your own classroom context, digital creation, problem solving, and innovation, and creative production. And one of the things that is quite important for Africa is how do we creatively respond and use technology to respond to some of the critical challenges that we are facing in our context. And the capacity to design, create new digital artifacts and materials, open resources, text space, audio, podcasts, videos, etc. Right? Use digital evidence to solve problems and answer questions, and to develop practices with digital technology. Now that's quite critical because it opens up a whole new space for us to engage with as educators, as researchers, on incorporating technology as part of our creative processes and thinking, right? The fourth one, digital communication, collaboration, and participation. This is actually speaks to the essence of what we are doing now. Currently on this platform, we are engaging with each other through a learning process, but there's an element of communication through the chat. There's an element of collaboration by us being a large number of people on the space engaging with each other when we do the Q&A, and participation, right? So this is where the capacity to communicate effectively in digital media spaces, participate in digital teams, working groups, participate, all becomes core skills. And we've seen this in the midst of COVID-19 when we were all under lockdown and companies and corporate society had to operate from home, and education had to operate from home, higher education. All we need to engage in new collaborative spaces, new participation spaces. Then digital learning and development. The capacity to participate and benefit in digital learning object or opportunities, to support and develop others in digitally rich settings. And this speaks to the entire ecosystem of what you are now doing. The idea of being on a MOOC platform, the idea of lifelong learning, the idea of being an online learning, an engaged learner. This forms part of digital learning and development, right? And then digital identity and well-being, and this is one of the most critical things that we have now found, specifically coming to the fore in the era in this particular time where we have more people online. The fact that more people are online, it now means for a new set of skills of what it means to be digitally well-being. How do you balance digital presence from offline presence, online presence, offline presence? How do you engage with with people in an online space? How does your communication in an online space shape your offline communication? So these are now emerging as critical issues and skills for us that forms part of the digital literacy part. An activity to engage with this. And here I ask you to simply click on a poll, right? So the poll is literally a voting tool that forms part of this course. And you'll find that we try as much as possible to integrate a lot of these additional tools so that you are exposed to these tools and how it also can be integrated in teaching and learning. And part of this poll, right, is simply for you to reflect on these six core skills, right? And state where, as you reflect on this, on a scale to reflect where you actually position yourself. And you find that the moment you click on this, it takes you to the poll with the digital literacy skills, and you can then say whether I'm poor, average, good, excellent, where. And just remember, this is your self-rating. But in reflecting on your self-rating, it also shows you where the rest, you can also click on results, and then you can actually see where the rest of your classmates peers are. So if you look at this, this was actually, some people have already completed it. And if you look at this, 11 average, 11 good, 2 excellent. So if you're looking at some of the core skills, a large part is here, an average and good. And we need to try to get you to this part in excellent here so that you have a full knowledge, but full understanding of how this space actually works. But this is actually helps you to understand where the rest of your class is and position yourself as well in the midst of class. So this is very self-autonomous rating that you would engage with. So let me go back here. And this activity, so you will complete this activity on your own. Now, what does it mean to become a digitally fluent educator? Remember, I spoke about contextualization, right? And a digitally fluent educator. Now, as I said, digital literacy is broad, but what does it mean for you as an educator? And here, Derek Wenmott uses what he calls the 3 stages to becoming a digitally fluent educator. Now, if you search up digital literacy, if you search up you'll find 3 concepts that have emerged now as categories: digital proficiency, digital literacy, and digital fluency. And it's all interconnected, right? Now, let me quickly look at what this means. The idea here is that digital proficiency means can demonstrate the skills of using digital technologies, like your laptop, your mobile device, etc. Do I have the foundational knowledge required? That's proficiency, knowledge, cognition. The next step is what we call digital literacy, right? The second step is, can I apply these skills effectively in ways that add value to do my work, right? Is my use of technology a regular and integrated part of how I work? And do I exploit the potential it provides to work differently and in collaboration with others? So that's the second stage, digital literacy. Then Derek Wenmott goes further and he talks about digital fluency. And this is where we all need to strive to be digitally fluent, right? Do I demonstrate understanding of what it means to be digital and to think digitally, right? Be digital and think digitally. Is my digital behavior respectful of others? And do I demonstrate the technical, social, legal, and moral understandings to enable me to be successful and safe in a digital world? Am I a digital citizen? So if we look at the 3 stages towards becoming a digitally fluent educator, the 3 stages speaks from digital proficiency, second, which is knowledge, cognition, second step, digital literacy, the understanding and application, and the third step, digital fluency, which is the wisdom, analysis, and evaluation, right? So here, his ideas, Derek Wenmott's ideas, he works with core education and one of the consultants in pushing forward this type of integration in education. And the way he speaks at these 3 stages specifically for the education space, he talks about knowledge, skills, and understanding. So digital proficiency means filling in the gaps of personal skills and knowledge. Digital literacy, applying these skills with understanding in terms of actions and decisions made, right? And then digital fluency, and this is a step that we're a place where we need to eventually come to in terms of how we see technology, is where everyday activities involving digital technologies are applied as normative, as the norm, as an unconscious competence, right? So it means there needs to be a transitioning where we see technology as part of our life, but the application of it should be something that we use to evaluate how we think, to assess how we react in situations. So it shouldn't just overtake our life, but it should be a tool for us to engage with how we see our life as a norm and part of our life. And we use this to some extent. If you think about yourself, if I ask you, for example, if you're watching something on TV and suddenly you find the need, okay, maybe find out what that is. You go to your phone and you Google it, right? That is immediately tapping into a database, which becomes part of your knowledge structure. So that fluency becomes part of it. So we are there, we're moving towards that. But the pace that we're moving towards is a bit slow compared to the developed countries. So we need to think of a much more faster pace and how we evolve towards this integration of fluency, digital fluency. So here, what I wanted you to do, colleagues, was to think of a personal learning network. Now, a personal learning network, PLN for short, is an online network that we use to source information to learn, right? So, for example, a personal learning network, a PLN, could consist of the following: Google, blogs, social media, YouTube, right? So, for example, if I asked you a question on the current something on the upcoming elections in South Africa. Describe the upcoming elections in South Africa and what you consider as the potential outcomes for citizens, for example. You will immediately go to your sources as part of your network, Google, News24, or any online sources, or search on YouTube to come up with a response, to come up and shape your response to my question. Those little nodes of information that those spaces that you tap into are what you call your personal learning node network. So if you go to Google and search in Google, that's part of your network. If you're going onto Facebook to see what's up on the ENCA website, for example, that's part of your network. YouTube as well. If you're using WhatsApp as part of your source, if you're part of a group in WhatsApp, which speaks to these type of issues, that becomes your source, a personal learning network. So here, what I want you to think about is many of us don't apply this concept of personal learning network, but we have it as part of our DNA in the digital space. We go to these sources. But what I want you to do as part of this activity, colleague, is briefly describe what you consider as part of your personal learning network, right? And why you use these spaces as an educator. And that's important, not just what you consider, but why do you use these specific spaces as an educator, right? And you will find, and then post your response in the link 1C, right? And you will find that these spaces that you attach yourself to for information are based on your personal preference for where you want to attain that knowledge. And that forms part of your personal learning network. And it's important for us to identify how our knowledge, our responses are shaped by these networks that we create. That's very important because it forms the basis of how we are forming our opinions, our thoughts, and that's part of understanding and unpacking what the digital literacy is all about. And then we move, colleagues, after that. You've come now from the educator context, and now we go into understanding the African context, the South African context, right? And then we look at some of the stats on the Digital Observer for Africa, right? Digital Observer for Africa. Their digital literacy is fundamental. They say that digital literacy is fundamental in the African context for promoting lifelong learning. Now, I don't need to unpack too much what lifelong learning means because I'm sure many of you know this, but lifelong learning speaks to a skills development, a continuous growth, a continuous skills development. And it's part of promoting the developmental agenda in developing countries, more specifically. So, for example, when I was at Shanghai Open University, they combined with the municipality Shanghai to put forward a learning city where they offered free courses for an entire city for all the citizens to be developed as part of their learning, their lifelong learning progression. So part of this looks at how lifelong learning in the African context, specifically the type that we are looking at now, right, can help us towards the developmental agenda of Africa. And it's very important that you understand digital literacy in the African context, because when it comes now to the school context, we're going to unpack what that means for us as Africa, right? Now, while Africa has shown exponential growth, specifically digital penetration is very low, right? So if we look at this, if we look at the stats that were taken from the world internet usage, and if we look at the stats, penetration versus growth, Africa is really behind in terms of the stats. It's way below 50 on the stats growth. And if we look at the growth, there's a lot of potential for growth, but the penetration in terms of the coverage of geographical regions, the coverage of people is low. And that is partly because if we look at the digital literacy level is obviously behind simply because of the low penetration levels. But if we look at some of the notable barriers, which we don't need to go too far out to discuss why this is, it's there, it's visible, it's tangible in front of us, we can see it. The cost of ICT infrastructure, data cost, for example, connectivity cost. People cannot afford data, it's too expensive. Infrastructure, our devices, the cost of our devices are more expensive. If we look at the school context, there is, in the context of school, there's either inadequate or non-existent technology integrations, right? And you will be in a better position to speak to that elements, which will actually be good to hear that when we have the open session of whether you find these technology integrations in your schooling setup actually visible or not. But those are some of the elements that speaks to our South African context. And it, unfortunately, it shapes the African context. It speaks to our South African context, but it also speaks to the broader dynamics of digital literacy and the digital skills that are exposed to our citizens in our country. Now, what I would like you to do here is download this activity, download this document entitled Capturing the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a regional and national agenda, the fourth industrial revolution and digitalization that will transform Africa into a global house. And on pages 71 to 73, you will find the South African strategy for harnessing the fourth industrial revolution by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And in the forum link below, I want you to briefly describe the strategy put forward by President Ramaphosa, right? So if you look at this document, it's still opening, but the document actually foregrounds very strategically what are the challenges for the African context. So it comes out right from the African context first. What are some of the challenges, the technologies that use, the preparedness for our South African context? It talks about the transformative potential. And that's important for us, and why we want to do digital literacy as part of this ingrained, and why coding and robotics in school. What are the importance for transformation potential for it, right? And it goes much more into an interdisciplinary space from economics to agriculture to education, the labor market, skills, etc. But on page 71 to 73, you will find the agenda specifically for Africa. And in this agenda for South Africa, the viewpoint, a national strategy for harnessing the fourth industrial revolution, the case of South Africa. And here, President Cyril Ramaphosa unpacks what this means for us in the South African context, from the workforce to graduates to the type of students that we put up, youth empowerment, etc. And this is very important for us to think about, specifically when we now start talking about digital literacy and the core skills, why these are important for us. So this is a very important document. It's done by the Brookings Institute Research Institute, and it's a very credible document in terms of understanding and unpacking the fourth industrial revolution for us in the African context. So briefly here in the link below, unpack what this means for us in the South African context in terms of the strategies put forward by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, digital literacy skills in a teaching environment. Now we look at, we've zoomed into Africa, but what does this mean for you now in your teaching environment? So the first thing that we need to know is that our current era, our children, those that have access to technology devices and connectivity, have emerged as early adopters of technology. If I think, for example, of my daughter, at 2 years, 3 years old, she was literally working with a iPad simply because it was a way to keep her quiet, but she learned the skill. Right, fascinated by what YouTube was, fascinated by what the games were, she starts to play by herself. Now at 8 years old, she works through programming software on her own, simply by developing those core skills as part of an early age. Now that early adaptation speaks to a different generation of students that we have in our schooling system, those that have access. But also speaks to, and somebody had that important point on the divide that is also come, the equity divide amongst our students, or those that have and those that don't have, and how we need to bridge that gaps, right? And if we look at children who have access, it's no longer trying to understand the process. A simple search on Google to find information. If they don't know how to search, ask Siri on an Apple device, artificial talking agent, right? And in streaming services, children no longer, many children now want TV on demand as opposed to waiting for a program on, for example, on TV, on DSTV. If they have the options and the access to this technology, it's TV on demand. So there's a complete shift in how our learners are coming into the school system, which means that if our learners are now being exposed to technology and exposed to a new digital culture, it means a readaptation of how we teach and learn and assess our students in the space. And this is where I know my colleagues, Dr. Sapura Mira and Professor Davids, will have much to speak about this. The idea of Bloom's digital taxonomy and the shift towards the digital space, the digital application of Bloom's taxonomy. But what it means for us, colleagues in this space, is that the rethinking of our traditional modes of teaching and learning, if our students start having access to technology, if we start building the digital literacy competencies of our students, then what does remembering mean? What does understanding mean for them? Applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating in a digital space. So for example, simple things like recalling. Will we recall, or will a student need to recall where they found the information from, or simply bookmark the internet site where they found the information from? Will they need to, understanding, does it mean simply understanding a concept, or does it mean finding explanations to and different ways of engaging with that concept? So these are some of the critical levels that we now need to think about as we engage the digital space as part of our digital literacy campaign in this space, but it also means a shift from how we teach, right? And then Leanne and Leary noted the following reasons why digital literacy is important. And I thought this was actually quite an interesting way for which she contextualized it in the education space. And you can read more on the link. And she says, one is identify an authentic source. While there is a variety of information online, it's now more, is there information? It's now the skill is what is real, trustworthy, what is untrustworthy, what is fake news, what is fake sources. That's a skill that needs to be learned by our students, especially if they have connectivity, especially if they're online. They need to know what is a trustworthy source. Learners might be able to find the correct answers and memorize the process of how they got there, but as educators, we now need to teach the logic and the contextualization behind the process. Right? New knowledge also implies pushing students towards creative thinking. You now have got all the access to all these skills. You have access to digital skills, digital ways of thinking, digital ways of engaging content. How do we then apply that to creative thinking? Educators will need to teach learners what it means to be a digital being in a global network. Now, this is important because what does it mean now to be a participant? For example, you are all here on this platform, but as this platform, you are not physically here, you are virtually present, which means that it's very difficult to see unless the cameras are on, to engage with where you are as I would do in the classroom setup, right? It now means us rethinking of what it means to be a digital being in this space, in terms of our personalities, our worldviews, of how we engage. Educators need to teach students how digital platforms can be used to enhance learning, right? Remember, for example, Instagram is used typically to take photos, right? Typically photos, and many people use it to post up their own photos, to create their own galleries. Some people use it for commerce, for putting their products up. But there's also a way of capturing local scenery, landscapes, buildings, and using this as a way to curate local knowledge, using the exact same platforms that are used for these other social spaces. So it's a matter of us now thinking of adapting platforms as tools for teaching and learning, right? And that's a skill. The use of technology to create different teaching and learning styles. And here it also creates opportunities, colleagues, and I don't need to engage, this is something that you know well, is the idea of the different learning styles, the approaches to teaching. It creates that space for audio, text, visual, that now becomes part of the learning process, but it also caters for those students who might be more adaptable towards, for example, visual learning, as opposed to simply textual learning, right? It integrates technology while understanding different cultural contexts, learner profiles, and this becomes important as well as we make that transition. So these are some of the things that you will find now as an educator, why digital literacy becomes important for you when you start merging technology into the space, when you start bringing technology as part of the space, and you start talking to students about concepts and theories, even when you start instructing them about coding and robotics, is how do you think about these 7 dynamics that fits into the way you communicate with your students in this space, right? Then digital literacy for coding and robotics. And here, as you noted in the earlier, the 6 competencies from the basis where we consider digital literacy, from functional skills, critical use, creative production, participation, development, self-actualization, all these skills are essential and fundamental for coding and robotics as a school subject, right? They further capture the need for the skills in emerging technology-driven generation plus knowledge production. But what it also means is that as we engage with coding and robotics, core concepts and functions that must be in place as part of this. So, for example, when you start talking to your students about selective apps or selective tools, the student must be able to grasp what you're saying without coming back to it. So that level of digital literacy needs to be in place. And this is one of the reasons why the UNISA team has chosen to put this right at the front. The coding and robotics is to build the foundational knowledge and assume the knowledge to be in place, right? Then the e-learning activity, and what we wanted to do here was, one of the tools that we will be using is Scratch, and there's an excellent video by Common Sense Education, and what I would like you to do here is watch the video as the presenter unpacks what type of skills are needed for students when they start engaging with coding, right? And here what I want you to do as you engage with this is discuss, as you listen to the presenter, take note of, for example, when he talks about collaboration, participation, those are online collaboration skills that you would need your students to engage with, right? And you may think that some of these are far-fetched skills, but you'll be surprised with those students that have access to, for example, video games online. They are already participating in some of these collaborative spaces, but we don't know, may not know the technical concepts of these things, but they are participating in some of these spaces. So the idea here is also to create that awareness of what the student is doing, the skills that are needed, and this particular video actually shows or speaks to those type of core skills that are needed as when we talk about students in a coding space. And then we look at the conclusion just to capture what we looked about, defining digital literacy, unpacking the concept, unpacking for the educators, what it means for educators, what it means for the African context, the South African context, and then what it means in the teaching space and the coding robotics. That's our journey of how this 2 hour would have taken you through that particular session. And then I spoke last time when we did the orientation that every study unit ends with a learning activity. So it ends with a portfolio assessment activity. Now the portfolio, you will submit at the end of the course a portfolio. Every unit will have the assessment activity. You don't need to do it now, but ideally the way that we would prefer you do it is when you finish the course, simply complete the assessment activity and file it away on your computer. And when you're ready to submit your portfolio, you collate all your assessments together, submit it as one single portfolio, right? So this is a portfolio activity for this particular study unit. And what we want to assess in this particular is the applied knowledge that you are able to understand what digital literacy means, but more specifically, you are able to apply digital literacy in your concept as a South African, an African, South African, and your school, right? And the activity is quite simple. So this assessment activity must be submitted as part of your portfolio. And for this assessment activity, you're required to do the following. So here's a scenario. Bill and Melinda Gates have sent out a call for funding a digital literacy program for school learners. Okay, funding for digital literacy program for school learners. And you need to write a motivation in 500 to 750 words on why you think a digital literacy program for your learners, that means for your learners in your school, should be funded, right? Your motivation should include a brief background to your school, what you understand by the term digital literacy, what you think is important for the South African context, and why learners should be exposed to these core skills, right? So if you look at those areas of brief background to your school, what you understand by the term digital literacy, why you think it's important for the South African context, and why learners should be exposed to core skills, all that information has already been provided to you above. What you now need to do is contextualize this to your school, to write that motivation as an educator on why this is important. And our aim here is to also get you to apply the digital literacy skills to your own context as a teacher in that particular school, right? The marks for this is out of 100, and we encourage further research and creativity to support your motivation. So here you are welcome. And why we say 500 to 750 words, remember, you've got a lot of other assessment activities that you will complete as part of this. So we don't want to overload you with this, but we also want some substance to what you are presenting to assess that competency in place. So here you can be as creative as you want. We think out of the box, but we want to see that you are able to articulate the competencies of digital literacy, the definition of it, and apply the core skills that we mentioned in your schooling context and capture that as part of your motivation towards this. So colleagues, this is your digital literacy study unit. And as you walk through this and read through each of the content in the sessions, you will, and the links that are provided, you will find that it will become much more clear what I actually discussed today and then thereafter. So thanks colleagues. So let me hand back to Patricia. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, Denzel. Sure. Thank you very much. It is, you make it all sound so easy. I think the core of this is that it's a skill. These are digital skills, and you're only going to learn or develop the skills through practice and practice and practice. And so it's really important to know that these digital skills are also on different levels. So there's a proficiency, then there's the literacy, and then there's the fluency. And so welcome to the journey towards digital fluency. And we really now welcome any questions, specific questions you have maybe for the team. If you'd like to put your hand up and then unmute yourself, you're most welcome. But if you'd prefer just to add to the chat, you're also welcome to do that. We are pausing now and we're listening to your questions. Anybody got any questions or comments they'd like to add to the presenters? You're more than welcome to put your hand up now. And I'm also seeing now Morty's put up a form, so we'd really like your response. Yes, it is anonymous. It's definitely anonymous, but please just add your comment. You've got 3 options: excellent, good, or poor, and then just submit. We'd love to have a poll of what our 151 participants think of this evening's presentation. So you've got 2 things to do. Number 1, you can fill in the form. Oh, there's a hand. All right. You're welcome to unmute yourself, Rogator, and put your question forward. Thank you very much.
Good evening, colleagues.
Good evening, and welcome.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. My request is that could you please have a register, and again, is it possible for one to have recordings for this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I can answer that. The register is automatically generated within this meeting session. All recordings of all webinars are on the MOOC portal. You'll find every single webinar recorded, and you're welcome to access it as often as possible. Okay.
Okay. The last question, if I was last time when I was listening to the recordings, they said if I'm unable to attend the meeting, I can always listen to the recordings. Then what about the register when you listen to the recordings? Is it not going to affect your attendance, or it doesn't matter whether you?
I think as long as you submit your portfolio with this specific unit's assessment, it'll be fine, because there will be a list of those who have downloaded the recording. Yes.
Okay.
I'll just confirm that with our ICT specialist, Morty, in the background. But yes. All right.
Okay.
Not really. So they only the ones attended will be in the attendance list.
Thanks, Morty. Thank you. Morty, do we have a list of those who download the recordings?
No, we don't keep a list of that.
Okay, but thanks, Morty. There we go. There's your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, just as another form of register, there is, once you go onto the MOOC portal and register, then you are on that register as well. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We have another hand up here. Tsolofelo. Hi, Tsolofelo. You the same Tsolofelo from last week?
Oh, you remember me. Hi, Patricia.
How are you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
Can't complain. It's Monday.
I was just wondering, how long do we have to submit this entire portfolio? Because I understand we're under no pressure to submit this current study unit. But then the overall thing, what I'm asking is like the overall thing, when is the deadline, the cutoff date for us to submit the complete portfolio?
So we would like to get DBE001 done and dusted by the end of the year. So let's make it like not Christmas, please. Maybe Christmas Eve.
We'll try.
We'll try. We realize, however, that educators are under a lot of pressure at the moment with the exams and the final assessments. So we don't want it to be rushed. We'd rather want a really good, a deep learning experience. So that'll be great. All right.
Okay. Okay. So that means that. Sorry.
And then you're up and running for DBE002 next year.
Yes, just on time. Now we're getting to the interesting part.
Awesome.
All right, so just to be clear, that means that by December,
Yes.
you should be done.
Yes, please. Please.
All
Remember,
right.
we also need to mark, and we also need Christmas somewhere.
Yeah, like normal people. Okay. Thank you,
Yes,
Patricia.
yes. Thanks, Solofelo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cool. All right, it's going to be an interesting end of year, that's for sure. Absolutely. Ashrik, you've got your hand up. Hi, Ashrik. You're unmuted. You'd like to say? Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Hi,
All right.
welcome.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to get clarity regarding the portfolio assessment activity. Do you have to do it in Word, type it out, or can it be in a PowerPoint presentation with pictures and all of that? What's the format? Do you need to be references in the layout of it, or is it just about the content of what is asked for in the activity?
Okay, so after every unit, you're going to get given a part of your portfolio assessment.
Okay.
Okay, and then you're going to have to combine all that into a portfolio. And whilst I'm talking now, I'm just confirming with Denzel. Denzel, only one submission per student. Am I correct?
That's correct. So colleagues, what you need to do is collate all the activities. So it's part of continuous assessment in the sense that every study unit would have a learning assessment. You complete that portfolio assessment, and then you will submit all this as a collated portfolio at the end for grading. Now, in terms of how you submit it, we ideally as an academic course, referencing if you're using additional sources and citing is very important, so we don't lead into plagiarism. Secondly is in terms of format, if you are really good with PowerPoint and you want to embed that as part of it, you're more than welcome. But if you are not good at PowerPoint, I would suggest that you simply keep straightforward with the presentation on a Word document.
All right.
Thanks, Denzel. And if you want to make a video or a movie and you want to include the URL in your assignment, in your document, you can also do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarity. Appreciate it.
Be creative. We are here for digital literacy or proficiency, literacy, and fluency. So that's where we are. Okay. Thanks, Ashrik. Thank you so much. I'm just going to ask Safura, are there any questions on the chat that you want to address?
Yes, I think Prof. Davis is doing a good job about it, and you answered it as well.
Okay.
What type of referencing style? We said Harvard referencing.
Yes.
Like that. And again, the register, the question about the register. I think you need to explain to them about teams having the names all recorded as a register.
Okay.
And they want to know also about do they have weekly assessments?
Okay, so the assessment is part, the actual assessment is part of the bigger portfolio, and every unit has an assessment activity, all right? But every unit also has multiple other little activities which are not part of your portfolio, but we really encourage you to tackle them and complete them. All right. Okay, and then just on Safura's comment on the register. So this is the cool thing about this environment. It generates an automatic register on how you've logged into the meeting. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Safura. Thank you.
One more question. Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. 1st of November is, I think, local elections. So are we going to have a webinar next week, Monday? That's a question from Danielle.
Okay, so I'm now going to confirm with Denzel. Did we say we're going to have a discussion anyway, but not necessarily another unit? Denzel?
Yeah, I think colleagues, what we can do for next week is, Patricia, maybe we better be more strategic if we just have the session on Tuesday.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can
So
do
we we skip Monday, colleagues, so you are free. And what we'll do is then have it on Tuesday, same link, but I'll put up a notice on. So next week, Tuesday, we'll discuss study unit 2, same time, 6 p.m. in the same link.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks, Denzel. Thank you so much for that. Tuesday is great. Yes, we just need to all focus on voting on Monday, please. All right. Terence, you are very patiently waiting for an opportunity. You're welcome to unmute.
Good evening, ma'am.
Evening.
Ma'am, mine is quite a winded concern, okay? So I'm going to be asking many things, and hopefully we can get some clarity and answers to that.
Okay.
Number one, I received the link via a third party. Okay. So you don't have my name on your list, okay, which you sent out to teachers.
That's correct.
Okay. So remember last week there was concerns about the funding. UNISA, your responsibility in terms of marking and assessing. Teachers doing the portfolio and submitting. Your responsibility is to mark. Okay, so now in my case, let's take me as a person. I've managed to register on your MOOC. Okay, the only problem is you don't have my details per se. So I haven't received an invite. If I submit a portfolio, are you going to mark it? That's my first concern. Okay, that's my first concern. Remember, you have the approval of DBE for the training of the foundation phase, but not the senior phase. Now, I form part of both of them, okay, because I'm a district official. Like Almeret asked last week, so can anybody just give me an answer in terms of whoever is participating currently, are those portfolios going to be marked, and the results, are they going to stand in terms of being part of the initial or the identified group or not? Thank you.
Okay, so MOOCs are by definition open and accessible to all. And so us as UNISA have no way of stopping anybody from joining this MOOC. All right. However, you are required as part of this MOOC to submit assignments, and that is part of this course. I would then say it is ethical of us then to mark your assignment. If you have participated in this MOOC, we will then need to mark your portfolio.
Thank you very much, Doc.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right.
Doc, if I may interrupt again.
Yes, Terence.
We had a provincial meeting last week, and I urged my colleagues to join.
Yes, awesome.
Whether or not they were, whether we are officials or whether we are senior phase or whether we are foundation phase, I have urged them to participate.
Awesome.
Is that invitation still open?
Absolutely. You are very welcome. You're all very welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's called Massive for that reason.
I believe so. I believe so.
Awesome. Great stuff. Nice to talk to you, Terence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you. It's awesome. All right. Let me just see. I've got... Oh, wait. I see there was one person that was very patiently waiting. Melissa, you've been very patient. Yes, Melissa. You're welcome to unmute.
Hi, good evening. I have a question. If we are a group of staff members from one specific school that are doing the course together, can we work together and submit one portfolio, or do we each have to submit our own essays and not be able to work together?
Okay, so we cannot police your working together. However, each of you need to submit a unique assignment.
Okay, so it can have roughly the same information, just worded in a different way, but working together to get the knowledge across as best as possible.
Well, it's to ensure that each of you have the unique learning experience. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Right. You're welcome. Okay. Tolofelo, your hand is up again, or is it still up?
Oh no, it's up again.
Oh, good.
I was just curious about the dates. Is there a pattern here, or what's the story? Are we going to have, under normal circumstances, classes on Monday?
Yes.
So then now we're moving over for the ANC on Monday.
For the voting day on Monday, we're just moving just on the first, we're moving the first webinar to the second, to Tuesday, but then we're going back to Monday.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's have a look. Marie, your hand is up. You'd like to ask a question?
Yes, good evening. And I didn't make it last week, so maybe this one was already discussed and I don't have a feedback of that.
No problem.
My teachers is not very keen to attend session 6 o'clock in the evening because they hold in the class. Was it negotiate somewhere that you will take 2 hours per week from the teachers? If this is a very, very difficult term for any teacher in the system.
Yes, we're very aware of that.
Only have 6 weeks left. And if we think about it in a portfolio that have to be submitted and learners that coming with a rotational timetable to school, it means that a curriculum will definitely again not get this place at the school, especially where foundation phase are together. Some of that time they had then to use to complete this. And I really feel DBE is aware of all the challenges that schools have in this time.
Yeah.
It is really not a good idea to take a teacher 5 to 6 from the sport ground to the training session. I really need further feedback on this because here is some of my teachers not on.
Okay, so you're welcome. Hi, thanks, Marie. So we keep the presentation maximum 1 hour. We have the extra hour for discussions and for questions like this. That is why we have the recordings available, and the teachers can go at their own pace through the materials, and they can submit the portfolio as and when they're done. All right.
When they're done before Christmas, I'm speaking about this is the final term for our learners.
Yes.
So
Okay.
this is really, really not a good time.
Okay.
And
so,
I really need feedback because at the end of the day, a lot of teachers is not going to submitting because of the load already at the school.
Okay, Marie, we've got 2 MOOCs, DBE001 and 002. And these 2 must be completed by the middle of March next year. If your teachers need an extra time over Christmas and New Year, then I would say that's fine. Then that's also fine. Okay? That's no problem. I don't want to add, the whole team doesn't want to add stress to your educators. Okay? Marie, is that acceptable?
Not at all, because you never nowhere negotiate with teachers for 2 hours per week in such a hectic time. So it is not in order with me. I'm going back and discussed it, but I want something on paper to show to my principals that this is going to happen now every Monday, and next Monday it will be on Tuesday. They are aware of that. Definitely schools have to make then other arrangements for teachers that is still part of other activities of the schools also. Thank you.
A pleasure, Marie. The teachers do not need to attend these webinars at all. They don't need to attend the webinars. All the recordings are available on the MOOC portal. It's all available there. Okay. Okay. Terence. Your hand just popped up.
Sorry, Doc, just another concern. Remember we started this whole coding in robotics with orientation, with DBE, and of course we're now in the phase of training. What has currently happened is that teachers move, or teachers that have been earmarked for orientation and training has now since moved on.
Okay.
And then schools are asking whether new people or a new person can be appointed.
Okay.
And if so, are those people allowed to do the training even though they haven't done the orientation? Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure, Terence, who is going to give you an answer to that. Are you asking that DBE approve that other teachers come onto the course on the list, on your list, to replace teachers that have left?
That's one possibility, Doc. The other is that if we do the next round of orientation, especially with regard to the intermediate phase as well as the as grade 8, that we include the new people.
Okay. All right. That I'll need to ask. Can I ask that to DBE?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Terence, I'll get back to you on that one next week. Okay.
Thanks so much, eh?
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. And then Melissa, you're on top of the list now. Melissa, hand high five.
No, my hand's not up. You answered my question earlier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Tolofello, your hand is up again. No?
Me? No, it's not.
Okay, there it's gone. Oh, there it's gone. Okay. Elna.
Good evening, Patricia. How are you?
I'm good, and you, Elna?
I'm fine, thank you. I would just like to find out, you keep on saying that before Christmas we must hand in our portfolios, we submit them. But on the email, it says that we are going to have Monday evenings until the 27th of December. So I would just like to have clarification on that, please.
Okay. We will send out clear dates and deadlines. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
So clear date, deadlines, dates and deadlines. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The cool thing about the MOOC is you can visit the site anytime you like, and it's open. It's there. All right. It's like your 24/7. Okay. Gloria, yes. Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Patricia.
How are you doing?
Good evening, and the teams.
Good.
I'm okay.
Good.
Yes. What I want to know is during the portfolio assessment activities, is there anyone from the teams that are going to support us whenever you have problems when you are dealing with the assessment activities?
Well, that's what the second. Yes, that's what the second hour of these webinar sessions is available if you've come with a specific request. Otherwise, there is an email address. But what you can also do is add it in the discussion, and maybe Denzel can just show you there's a discussion on the MOOC portal, and you can pop your question in there, and then your fellow educators can actually answer you quicker, and you can maybe have an online discussion. Yes.
Okay. I'm covered.
Awesome.
Thanks, Trisha.
Thank you. You're welcome, Gloria. You are so welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Elna. New hand. No. All right. All right. Safura, it's now over to you. We all the hands are down, and now it's your turn to just go through the chat.
I think whatever questions came to you, and we repeated it on the chat.
Okay.
There was a list of dates given by Danelle, but I think we're going to sit and look at that carefully.
Yes.
So for now, we won't talk about it. That's about all.
All right. So we will put the new dates up, and and the dates will include voting day next Monday. Only for next Monday we will move this webinar time then to Tuesday. All right. We have come to the end of our hour and a bit. Are there any other issues that need to be addressed, or is everybody keen to get started on Unit 1? All right.
We're keen.
Hi, Lorraine.
Unit 1.
Hi, Lorraine. You've got your hand up. There we go. No, yes, I can hear you. Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, but I've got a few questions. Like myself, I didn't receive any email from UNISA. We used the link that we were provided by the DBE group chat that we were using when we went for orientation for us to be able to register. So I don't know if we are registered on yours, we are on your list. The second question, it's my first webinar now. When you were trying to explain about the register, we have got load shedding here and the network is so poor. Is it possible for you to explain to me if the register is accessed digitally by myself or it's automatically done by you on your side?
Yes, yes. So UNISA, as the owner of this meeting, it's automatically generated here on the system.
Oh.
Yeah. All right.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank
Lorraine,
you very much.
are you okay to get to the MOOC site?
All right. Sorry?
I just want to make sure, are you okay to get to the MOOC site with all the content?
Yes, I am. I'm actually on the 01.
Brilliant. Okay. Awesome. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Then I think we've come to the end of the session. Denzel, do you want to just show the participants on the chat, discussion chat? I'm just wondering whether...
Okay, sure, Patricia, 1 second.
Okay.
I just want to screen. Okay, so colleagues, you will see that, Patricia and colleagues, you'll see that we already have a course schedule. So there's already a clear outline. I don't think you'll have seen this on the side. So if you click on course schedule, it will immediately give you week 1 was enrollments and commencements. Enrollment commences the last weekend. Last week we had the MOOC and being an online learning. This week is what is digital literacy. Next week is the understand the basic components of a computer and how each functions. This will change. We won't meet on Monday. We'll meet on Tuesday. Week 5, understand the internet and web browsers. Week 6, understand productivity. Week 7, knowledge retrieval. Week 8, managing online identity. Week 9 is wrap up and portfolio assessment. So that goes between 6 to 12. And then we have due date for portfolios on Friday, 17th September, with a grace period until 23rd of December. So you've got about 5 days, 6 days grace for those that are submitting late. Then we can start marking. So there's already a very clear schedule of what we are doing, when we are doing, and when things are done. So please just look at that. That will help you to also program yourself. Going back to webinar links and recordings, if you didn't watch if you forgot or you missed a session, please go back to recordings. For example, there was last week's session. This week's session we will then upload here as well. For those that want to communicate with us, you click on chat room. And on chat room, you'll find that there are already comments and conversations that are happening as part of the chat room. So you simply type in your conversation here, click add message, and then when the colleagues are online, they will simply respond to you and as part of that. Also, you will note that your forums, whenever you post up a activity, you see this activity has already been completed. Our colleagues will now start going in and providing feedback to you on your activities that you complete as well. So you have something for self-learning as well. Thanks, Patricia.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Denzel. It's about communication, and if that's one thing that we're going to get right, it's communication in this fourth industrial revolution times. Oh, there's a hand. Sithole, your hand is up. I wonder whether Sithole, is your surname? Is your name Prudence?
My name is Prudence Sithole.
Hi, Prudence. Sorry.
Trisha, tell me. I just want to find out about the portfolio. I'm seeking clarity on the questions that included in the portfolio, because now I'm seeing the one that's in Unit 1. Is that the complete portfolio, or other questions are still coming with other units?
Yes, yes. So at the end of every single unit, one of the last kind of bands is assessment portfolio. Sorry, Prudence. Okay.
Okay, so meaning the date of the 17th of December is for all the units?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yes. All right. Michelle Delport. Hi, Michelle.
Hi there.
Hi.
I just ask a question in terms of you spoke about MOOC 2 for next year. Does that mean another 10 weeks? Is there a course outline for the entire course so that we know how many MOOCs there are, how many weeks? Because these are the kind of questions that teachers are asking us as district officials, and we actually can't answer them in terms of planning.
Okay.
Because they're very scared to commit. I mean, there's some of my teachers who I see have still not registered, and I can't blame them, because they don't want to register for something if they haven't got all the information. I mean, when we register for a course with UCT or UNISA, I've done a course with UCT and with UNISA, then you know what the course outline is for the entire course. What are the outcomes for the entire course? And you know where you're working towards, so you can kind of get your mind around that.
All right. So, Michelle, just to answer broadly, it's the 5 streams of the robotics and coding and robotics curriculum. And so MOOC number 001 is then the first 2, which is the digital literacy. And the other 3 are then with algorithms, robotics, the programming, and the problem solving. We've kind of taken the other 3 streams and kind of put them in, but there's also only 6 units.
Okay, so then I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Because we've done the orientation, which also touched on these things as well.
Yes.
Now, my initial understanding when they started speaking about the UNISA course and things like that is, and we had many of these questions in that orientation, is when will we get into the actual curriculum, the actual CAPS curriculum? And
this is it.
Okay.
This
all
is
right.
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Yes, we've got. We'll introduce later. There are learning activities, examples of lesson plans, all directly mapped onto the curriculum. Yes. Okay. Pleasure. Pleasure. Prudence, sorry, you have your hand up again. Prudence? You're welcome.
No.
No. Okay, all
it's
good.
Showing, I've lowered it.
Okay, now it's down. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Thanks, Prudence. All right, I think we're done. Shoran, do you want to close the session for us?
Sure, Patricia, thank you so much. Colleagues, thank you so much for attending this session. I do understand that this is something a little different from what you are used to, but as we go through the process, you'll become more comfortable with it and you'll be extremely successful at the end of this MOOC. With that being said, I do not want to take any more of your time. Colleagues, please look after yourselves, wear your masks, do your duty, and we will see you all again the following week. Colleagues, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks, Shoran. Thank you so much. Stay well, everybody. And we'll see you after voting.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, team. Thank you so much.
Bye, Tricia.
Bye. Bye-bye.
High five.
Good job, Tricia. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to get through this.
Bye-bye.
Okay?
Yes, we are.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, bye, Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, Patricia.
Stay well. Stay well. Oh, it's raining in Gauteng. I'm so happy. Thank you, everybody. Is Morty still in the meeting? Morty?
Yes.
You just need to remember to put the recording off.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.